waiting around. I think we're live. Shannon, you have us in the cup holder again?
Say that again? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I do.
All right. You traveling, man.
I mean, I got to make it happen, man.
I know how that goes.
Shannon, right. I saw your video of you pumping a couple of those dumbbells the other day. Why don't you quit messing around and put some serious weight on those things?
Well, listen, I'm smart enough to warm. I was getting going. I said, well, I'll do it while I have enough energy, because once I start getting into this thing, you know, there's risk of falling, you know, that stuff falling on my chest and not looking good on video. So.
Yeah. Those are 100 pounds each. I mean, I'm thinking, good Lord. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I hope he can keep those things up in the air.
What was that yesterday?
A couple days ago.
I did. I don't know. I don't know.
I know you said you were going to try to make it to the gym yesterday after we sat through all those interviews.
Yeah, and I did, but I was a little out of shape now, so it's not time to be putting on the show. And you know,
you're not like Sean Robinson. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
Right. No.
Put a couple of 5-pounders up there. We'll forgive you.
No.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and get started. And if WC hops on, that'd be great. Sound good, guys?
Yep. Let's do it.
Right. And YouTube is live, so we'll get started. Hey, welcome to the KillerFrogs, a podcast all about TCU athletics from the fans' point of view. My name is Sean Fouché, and this is episode 103 for Wednesday, July 18th. And we're bringing this to you on Wednesday instead of Tuesday because yesterday and today, Ryan, Shannon, and I spent some time in Frisco, Texas, going at the Big 12 Media Day. So before we go over that, tonight's panel, we've got Ryan Zeller. Hey, Ryan.
Hello.
We've got Wes Phelan.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, yeah, and you're not on mute this time. That worked out really well. And Shannon Brazil.
Hello, happy Tuesday, everybody.
It is a good Tuesday, and as I just said at the top, we just got done with Big 12 Media Day in Frisco, Texas at the Star, the Dallas Cowboy Training Center, which was absolutely a fantastic facility. I'd never been there. Shannon, Ryan, was that the first time you guys been to the Star?
Yeah, actually.
I've been there a couple times, but it's always, listen, I'm a Cowboys fan. Anytime you can grace the facility and be in Cowboy land, it's always wonderful. So it was a great time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful facility. In fact,
they use that as a convention center too, don't they?
Well, it's big enough. They should.
Yeah, I was there for graduation last month, so I saw a bunch of kids graduate, which I thought was awesome for a high school kid to graduate in that facility. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really nice. And I think Dana Holgerson today, when he was meeting with the press, had made a mention that Tavon Austin, if everybody remembers Tavon Austin the first time at West Virginia, he's now a Cowboy, and he had a chance to meet up with Tavon while he's been here in the Metroplex, and Tavon was just absolutely just glowing about.
I remember him, boy. He put a dent in my defense a couple of times.
Yeah, just a few. But we did have 2 days. We survived 2 days of listening to Big 12 coaches talk about all manner of things, and we wanted to bring that to you guys tonight. But before we get started, Ryan has an announcement to make concerning the state of the Frogdom.
All right, drum roll, please.
My daughter's the drummer. I'm not very good at it.
The state of the Frogdom is set in stone. It's going to be the Friday before our first home game. That's August 31st. And it will be from 11:30 to 1 o'clock.
Where?
Sean, Acre. I always go blank on the name of it. Acre Distillery. I don't have the address in front of me.
Oh, is that the one downtown or near downtown?
Yes, it is. And don't let that scare you off, because it is downtown, but it's across from the old train station. They have their own parking lot, so parking will be easy. And then they have the back, an entrance all of their own. So it will be limited seating. There's plenty of seating, but we plan to push this invitation out next week to all Frog fans. So we're going to give KillerFrogs first dibs at it. We'll send out the link, and then you will sign up through PayPal. It's $10 to reserve your seat. So we need a good head count. So
do we have speakers lined up?
We do. We are working on that. It will be very similar to years past with the athletic director, baseball, basketball.
Excellent.
Hopefully, some of the other sports like volleyball and women's basketball, soccer would be nice. We invite all the coaches. So, yeah, really excited about that. So just go on when you see it pop up. Go on and sign up, and then next week we will advertise it on Frogs Wire and all other social media. So we want a full house. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Awesome.
I'm gonna switch tickets. I just saw some of the days, and I was rooting through some stuff this weekend, and I found the hospital bill from when he was born in 1961. 62, yeah, 61. You know how much the bill was?
For when who was born? I missed that.
My brother.
Oh, okay.
$181.90. That was the total hospital bill.
Wow.
You can't even, I've been pretty familiar with hospitals here lately. I can't even get a bottle of water in a hospital for $181 these days. So for the whole birth procedure with anesthesia and everything, $181.
Well, we promised tickets to the State of the Frogdom are going to be a lot less than $181.
There you go. Happy birthday, Robert. So anyway.
So Ryan, that's all set up. We're going to put the tickets up on KillerFrogs.com and this week. So if I promised our podcast listeners that you guys would also get a fair shake to get the tickets because they go pretty quick. So you'll be listening to this tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, and ticket sales will probably go up later that evening. So for those of you who listen to us first thing in the morning, jump on KillerFrogs.com, go to the forums. It will definitely be posted on the front page. So the minute that pops up, make sure you go on there, buy your tickets, because like I said, in years past, those things usually get gobbled up within about 24 hours. So,
yeah.
And we do have a few people who don't like to pay through PayPal, and that's fine, and we understand that. So you'll have one of our emails or phone numbers. So just text any of us or email any of us, and we'll hold your spot, and then you can we'll track you down for the rest of it. So
yeah, and we'll put that information on the website as well. So. For those of you who don't mind paying by PayPal, just jump online, grab a credit card, and buy as many tickets as you like.
There you go.
It's all good. All right. Well, I think that does it for housekeeping. Let's move on to Big 12 Media Days. So, like I said, Monday and Tuesday this week, the Big 12 football head coaches assembled in Frisco, Texas, and kind of faced the media. It actually kicked off Monday morning with Gary Patterson and the Frogs at 10 o'clock. And I wanted to, first off, before we get started, Shannon, Ryan, I know, Wes, you were stuck in Georgetown. But Shannon and Ryan, what was your overall impression of A, Coach Patterson, and B, the players that he brought to Media Day?
Oh my gosh, I was blown away. I don't remember being that mature, and I was always pretty mature, but those kids they just handled themselves so well spoken. I would have been so nervous at that. At the very end of the day, for those of you who do not know, they just sit up there by themselves. They don't have anybody like a Mark Cohen or anyone near them to help them if they get a question that they're not supposed to answer. I mean, they're on the spot, and they, for a good 30, I don't even remember how long it was, 45 minutes, maybe even longer. They're just answering questions right after the other. And I could not believe it. I was so impressed. And Gary, he was on, he was funny, and, let everybody know the difference between Coach P and Gary, which we all know the difference. Coach P's coming out, it's getting closer to season. So we're losing Gary and we're getting Coach P. So, but he was awesome. We'll talk about some of the things that came up in his press conference, but our guys looked great. They were so well spoken, just very knowledgeable. I could go on and on about how impressed I was with them.
I'm always impressed. Sean and I and Scott used to do that initial. Remember, Sean, the initial press conference right before the start of practice in August, and we'd grab the players we could, but every darn one of them was very polished. You didn't have any that stumbled on the words or anything. You could ask, and Scott and I used to love to ask them goofball questions, and they just pick right up on it and answer them like they're talking to Channel 5 or anybody else. And it was always amazing. I was always amazed by how polished and professional and mature those guys seem. I know Gary's not going to bring out guys that can't talk, but still, I've never met one yet that's not doesn't seem uncomfortable in front of a microphone or a camera or anything. They're all pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll mimic the same thing. It was obviously being my, it's kind of weird being on the other side of things. I was running into reporters and media people that that would interview me from high school all the way to college, and so that was interesting just to see how some of them never aged, it seems like. But man, shout out to Coach Summers, man. Our guys look good. I mean, I'm looking out, and I just looked at the mannerisms and just that again. Ryan, you're right at the time, but I was just looking at the chemistry. I was just that, and that's what I love about TCU. I could see the chemistry just between the guys and the fun and everything. That's what it takes to win, And I'm just looking at everybody, and they're relaxed, and they're just having fun. They're enjoying each other. They're giving honest, true answers. They're very knowledgeable of the game, and if you hear some of the things they're saying, about, the season and the young guys and the defense, having to bring on, support Sean because he's young, but they're comfortable in what Sean's going to bring to the table. They don't look at him as being a young guy and stuff like that. And then Coach Patterson, I'll tell you what, Ryan, you're absolutely spot on. If you want to see a more relaxed, calm, outgoing coach, you probably missed it because I don't see that happening beyond this point. He was relaxed. He's giving full interviews. He's laughing. He's smiling. But I'm telling you, I think that was it for that yesterday. But all in all, I enjoyed it.
He'll be in full beast mode here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, today. Next practice.
Yeah, and just to set the stage a little bit for those of you who didn't get a chance to watch any of this because it was broadcast on, I think, Fox Sports Southwest or FS1. I couldn't remember which one it was. But they had a stage set up. Think of it like a graduation stage in the north end zone, and you had about 500 seats for press in front of that. Again, it almost looked like a graduation setup. And then behind that, at about the 30-yard line, all the way down to the south end zone, so we're about 70 yards. They had seats set up for every single player that was there that day, and they had their names above them. And like Shannon and Ryan were talking about, they sat out there alone without any handlers answering questions for a good 45 minutes. And you could ask them anything you wanted, and they were giving honest answers. But the TCU players, to go back to Ryan's point, were probably the most polished players I saw, at least in day one. A lot of the graduate students that were there for some of the other teams today were fairly well coached and well versed as well. But the TCU players were absolutely fantastic. But let me ask this question of you guys: how crazy was it to see Sean Robinson, and did you recognize him when he walked in?
No.
Well, he looks just like his dad. I deal with his dad somewhere at Louisville High School, so I see his dad. Matter of fact, 3 times a week go back practice, and what I was impressed to see is a trim, slim. I mean, those guys I saw yesterday are like pro ready. I mean, they look good, and that's all I saw. And I'm just thinking to myself, the way he handled himself and the questions and some of the things he was doing. I'm like, man, this guy's mature. From yesterday on, and obviously he's got to play the game, but we've seen a glimpse of what he can do. I don't look at him as a young quarterback. He's mature, and Coach Patterson made a heck of a statement about, in the past how he didn't bring Kenny, and once he brought Kenny, I guess I forget what the record was, but and he's superstitious. We all know that from here on out.
Yeah, but I believe he said that the one year he didn't bring Kenny, we went 6-6. So the next year he brought him.
Because he doesn't like to bring young guys.
Yeah, because we all know how superstitious Patterson happens to be. So
I think he's one of the youngest guy. He always brings seniors, and Robinson's a sophomore. I tell you what, though, for me, in fact, Mike was there, and I said, well, there's Sean, and he looked over, and he was like, where? And I was like, right there, next to Jalen, and And he was like, oh my gosh, like he is leaned up. And not that he was bulky or anything, but he is lean. Like he's a lean fighting machine. He's gonna be fast. So he's been working hard. They all looked incredibly in shape. We should probably go through who all was there representing TCU. The guys. So it was obviously Sean Robinson, Jalen Austin,
Ben Banagoo,
Ty Summers, and Shewo. I can't say his last name.
Shewo.
Yeah. And so we have a lot. If you go on our Facebook and Frogs Wire and even Killer Frogs, we have a lot of their videos of parts of their interviews out there if you want to listen to. They're like a little bit 6-minute snippets. Pretty interesting to learn about him.
I saw that picture of Ty Summers, and it looks like he spent the entire summer in the weight room.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, guys, y'all, yeah, he looks good. I'm telling that guy, I was like, he's come a long way. Not that he's ever in the Baptist, but he looks good. I'm excited to see him play.
Yeah, he's excited too. He talked about how all these same guys were actually at the women's clinic Thursday night. So they were with a bunch of women Thursday night at TCU, and then they came and did this Monday. So they've had to be on for a few days. But he said that he's a 5th year, so he's getting his master's now in liberal arts. So he has a ton of time to focus on what he said. I never really focused on what I ate completely as a college student. I just didn't have time. He goes, but I have all the time in the world because he's getting his master's and he's not working. So he focuses on everything he eats and his weight training, and he said his mental focus. He's really working on his head, and you can tell he's sharp. I could see him being a coach one day, like
you're going to see that guy in the NFL. Yeah. That's where you're going to see him.
Well, yeah, but
he's NFL ready.
He's good. I could also see him just being an excellent football coach. He's just brilliant. So, but he looked good. I was looking at him and I was like, holy moly, your neck is wider than your head. Like it's crazy how strong he is.
Well, and he's going to be a guy to watch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, what neck? It was a But yeah, he's going to be the guy to watch, I think, on defense because we've seen him kind of become that field general a little bit in that particular role. That's only going to get better this year. And after listening to all the other Big 12 coaches, especially all the questions that were being asked about the stable of running backs the Big 12 has had, and the kind of change in the dime defenses that a lot of Big 12 teams are rolling out there to try to stop the pass, and how a lot of teams are going to be relying on the run. I think Ty Summers is going to be in for a very busy summer, and I think all the time he spent in the weight room is going to pay off.
Well, he was a quarterback in high school, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he looked. He got an interception last year, and he looked pretty good returning it. I don't know how far he got, maybe 15, 20 yards, but you know what? He can run too, and which Gary loves in that defense. By the way, is it true I heard a rumor that the Baylor players came in orange jumpsuits? Is that true?
No, but as I was leaving today, they were in violation of the new uniform rules, which we'll talk about later. Yeah.
Oh, we're on it already, huh?
Yeah, we are.
I do want to say it was I was proud of our conference this week, or Monday and Tuesday, I guess. All the players looked good. It's interesting to see what the coaches have them wear. This one was funny. All the Texas Tech players were in suits. It was about 50% who was in suits and who came with their their logo golf shirt. All looked very nice. But Tech, Coach Bro always just looks really, really nice. He's a snappy dresser, so they say. So he had a great suit on. He had this little flower thing on his lapel. I thought maybe it might squirt water, but it didn't. It was strange.
Yeah. It looked like that. It looked like it
could squirt water.
Smell this. Smell this.
Exactly. Yeah. And then of course he has a handkerchief in his pocket. And the new trend, I guess, now is shorter pants, so all your socks show
high water.
that 1950s, I think, look or whatever. Yeah. And so he did not wear socks. He had no socks on. Most of the guys are wearing like real bright colored socks, which I like, but no socks for Coach Bro. And then when they all went up to talk, they brought 4 players, and they all just looked so great. There were 2 of them in bow ties. I have pictures of them up as well. And I cannot remember the player's name. I wrote about him, so the information's out there somewhere. But one of the media guys went up and he said, "Hey, he was looking at his handkerchief, and it was I think it was like a turquoise handkerchief with gray skull heads all over him, and it was silk." And he goes, "What's that mean?" And he looks down at it, and he just kind of pauses, and he's like, "Well, I don't know." He goes, our coach is a really good dresser, and so he helps us with what to wear, and he's the one that told me to wear this. It was probably the hardest question he got. He was like, "I haven't been coached for this question."
Coach Bro is not only calling plays, but he's also dressing his players.
But they loved it. I got a kick out of it. I thought they really got into this. I can just see them all, in the locker room and tying each other's little bow ties, and it was pretty cute.
No. When you said that, the mental image I got was Coach Bro behind them, reaching around and tying the bow tie for them.
Probably. I should have checked to see if they're clip-on ties. They made clip-on, but
then he goes up with his thumb, he licks his thumb, and then smudges get the smudge off.
Yep. That is true.
Oh my God, that's bad. Oh, that's really bad. Oh, hey, real quick before we get on to the other teams real fast, I want to make one little side note about the weight room. A couple of the players were really complimentary of just how much work Sean Robinson has put in the offseason, especially in the weight room. And it sounds, between what Patterson said in his comments yesterday and from what the players were saying, it really sounds that Sean Robinson is kind of starting to develop that kind of leadership that we all want, not only on the field, but also going to be in that locker room. And it's paying off, because a lot of the other guys are pushing themselves harder now that Sean Robinson is kind of seen as kind of like the de facto leader in that locker room. So that was really encouraging to hear and to see, obviously, because these guys are absolutely in fantastic shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they really do all like each other. I noticed, for instance, when a couple people were up there talking to Ty Summers, but they were asking him about Robinson, and then they were talking to Ben Banigou and asking them about Ty Summers, and they all, you can just tell they all are really good, genuinely like each other, good friends. They talked about how this team this year's they just gel. So I'm excited to see that play out on the field.
Did Gary get any questions about the offensive line?
No, he didn't. But he seems they seem to be coming along fairly well.
Good.
Yeah. He made a comment about them, but it was just in passing. It wasn't anything in particular. It was more along the lines of answering questions about quarterback play.
Right.
But it wasn't really something that was come up. My favorite answer, though, that Patterson gave was the question. I think it was the Fox Sports reporter who asked him about the instability of the. No, it was the Austin Statesman. They were saying about how the play from Oklahoma and the conference's kind of the view of the conference from nationwide is kind of risen to the point where there's not as much talk about instability in the Big 12. And he replied back, he was like, "You want to talk about instability? You should have been around with all the conferences we've been through."
Right.
No doubt.
Right.
Exactly.
So my favorite comment from him was when Orange Blood stood up and asked him, I won't get the quote exactly right, but said, Coach, you're known for just not getting any 4 or 5 4-stars or 5-star players. And, now and turning them into great athletes.
Right.
And he said, so, comment on that. And he paused and he looks at him. He goes, well, that's your ranking, not mine.
Right.
So, is that kind of what? Yeah. It was so Gary Patterson, just bam, thank you. And next question,
Ryan, you're right. And that's what I was going to say as well. And he went on to say, basically, when he looks at a kid, they're a 4 or 5-star in his eyes.
Yeah, because they fit the team.
They fit the mold of what he's looking for. But that's one of the things about Gary. If you do your research on guys that come there as a quarterback or come as a tight end or come in whatever, and he mentioned switching them to a different position because he sees them playing something else. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 90% of those guys go to the next level. And I'm like, and I tell people, if you want to go, if Gary says he sees you as something, do your research on him. When he moves people, they have successful careers and they go on to the next level.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the best analogy for me on that is Michelangelo. Yeah. He's literally like the Michelangelo of coaches. He will take a block of marble and he'll see the beauty inside of it, essentially, right? And he knows that if he chisels away on that enough, he's going to reveal something that's just spectacular. And he's done that time and time and again.
And you're also going to feel the chill. You'll feel the chill.
Yeah, you will feel it.
You'll feel that for a while, but hey, if you buy in, you'll be successful. I'll tell you that.
I thought that was a great comment he made about players with that's your ranking or evaluation, not mine. And I've heard him say in Franchione before, it's all about evaluation of players. And I think people need to realize that these sites like 247 and Rivals, they serve a purpose, but those are for fans. That's not for coaches. Right. And you get all these people that buy into that stuff, and it's good.
Now wait, you say it's for fans and not coaches. Did you miss Tom Herman's comments today?
Yeah.
Oh, what was his comment like? Something like that, or somebody asked.
I'll tell you what. I'll come back to that in just a second. Why don't you finish your thought?
I'm not a Mensa member, so I really can't compare.
I think the jury's still out as to whether or not he's still a Mensa member. I don't know. I have you seen him swing a sledgehammer? I don't know of many Mensa.
Yeah, I've seen that one. That's pretty ugly. But,
so today, and it was just such a bizarre press conference that he gave. He literally came out and it was almost like he was doing a State of the Union address for the University of Texas. Mm-hmm. It was very odd. He had a couple of very weird moments, but he was touting his words, not mine, historic top 5 recruiting class that he brought into Texas. And he was going on and on about how amazing these recruits are and how amazing these players are. And then turned around and you may like 3-minute question from one of the reporters asking him, well, what are some of the players that are going to make a big impact? What are the, what are some of these great players that are going to make a difference this year? And right after the question was asked, he paused for a very long time, longer than I've taken to drawn that out.
Right.
To which his reply was one word:
some.
Yeah, that was
it. As a Mensa member, he has to consider all the possibilities and run through all the permutations in his mind.
Yeah, that guy from The Hangover, I forgot his name. Grafalakis, whatever his name is. There's that famous gif of him running around where he's like looking and you got all these numbers. What kind of said it was kind of like Roadrunner and Coyote kind of running around his head like, what am I going to answer here? What am I going to answer? I don't know. But it was bizarre. It was a really bizarre press conference.
He was really selling his program. I mean, he went about into
verticals,
everything, post-graduation and recruiting and locker room and all that.
Yeah,
it was a sales pitch for sure. But I will say, he went into about how he has the best defensive coordinator, hands down, he's ever seen, ever. And I was thinking, okay, all right. And then, of course, they have their best offensive coach back this year, and this team is gelling like never before. And apparently, I left going, well, shoot, looks like they're going to – he told me it looks like they're going to win the whole thing. He really got you to buy in. Like, it was a –
he didn't convince me. I smelled what he was shoveling.
Exactly. Yeah.
He was behind Bevo the entire time.
I guess he's put Gary Patterson as the head coach. I guess.
I know. I was like,
he's not a DC. He's the head coach. So okay, I understand.
You know, Matt Rule, that's Baylor's coach, right? Matt Rule.
Yes.
He gave Gary Patterson some credit for some stuff, and I thought, well, that's good. I mean, I liked. We got to see all the coaches. And that's the first time I've really ever been able to see them in that kind of atmosphere, and I really liked him. The only one I don't really like was OU's.
Gundy? You don't like? Oh no, you were talking about Lincoln Riley?
Yeah, I don't really like him. I like Herman. I like him. Okay, I like his energy and all of that. But yeah, and Coach Bro, he did not do so well. I did not think
he looked hungover.
He did.
Probably was.
He probably was. Yeah, he had something up with his left eye, and
it wasn't there by the time they came down to do the individual interviews. He was fine, so he must have just not felt well in the morning. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Every single time I see him, facing the firing squad from the media, it's never really great. He always comes across as not necessarily being prepared, just kind of winging it.
Yeah,
and that was kind of the case. He walked up there. He was the only one in day one that didn't give an opening statement.
Mm-hmm.
And he just went straight into questions. The only other one that did that today was Snyder, but Snyder, as he professed, being 100 years old, he can do that.
So, I love that man. Yeah, you know which coach I really liked, and I ran into him, but I saw him last year at Iowa State, and then just ran into him in the hallway yesterday. He's so nice. I mean,
Matt Campbell.
Yeah, is what
Campbell?
Oh yeah, Campbell. I thought you said yeah. Yes, he is. I love him. He is a great guy. I mean, he's so approachable, so sincere, and they are lucky. He's gonna take them far. I think they've got a bright future.
Yeah, I tell you, of all the programs from all the coaches that talked the last 2 days, the one program I'm most worried about this season happens to be Iowa State. From everything that he said and from what his players are able to do and the experience he's bringing back, Iowa State's going to be very dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, they showed glimpses of just
they're going to
start last year. They just can pull it all together, but wow.
Yeah.
Was the mullet man still have his mullet?
Yes. And he looked like he went to Trump's tanning salon.
His eyes are white. He's orange.
He is. He's certainly taking that school pride just a little too far.
So it looked like he took a bath in Cheeto dust.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Hey, was it me or did you guys feel like Matt, Baylor's head coach was trying to do the whole under promise, over deliver kind of thing? He talked about.
Which is smart.
He talked about. I'm listening to him. And I'm like, yeah, I hear your energy. I see your body movement. It's like you're trying to. Yeah, we didn't win very many games, but we laid a foundation, and the guys are played hard, and we're one touchdown away. We're 10 minutes of good football away, and it's not thinking, I see where he's going with this, but I'm not buying it, but I see where he's going with it. It's kind of like, we're going to be a good team, but if we're not, we're still laying the foundation here. So even though he knows they've got to win now, because the only thing that's gonna, to me, stop all the bad press is winning, and I don't know if he's going to be that successful this year. That's just my take on that.
Yeah, I think his term he used constantly was youthful experience.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So and he's got a couple of points. Position we find yourself in as a head coach. So I mean, I don't envy him. He seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he does.
But I was a little. I told Ryan this. I was a little peeved at the quote unquote journalists that yesterday morning when Bowlesby stood up and was talking and they were firing questions at him about the state of the Baylor investigation and how things are going in Waco and what are you guys going to be doing about it. When Matt Rule gets up there, all those guys are sitting on their hands. Same guys, they're right there, but they didn't even ask them a single question about it. So not even about any of the thing that came out this past week.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's a little. I don't know.
And
lacks balls to sit there and talk to the commissioner about that. But then when you got the actual head guy in front of you, you just sit on your hands.
Which is weird because out of all the coaches, there are only two who I feel are intimidating, and that is Gary and Dana Holgerson from West Virginia. Like those two to me just give off an air about them. The rest of them, especially Matt Rule, he went through the lunch line with us, the buffet line right in front of me, and he's just a normal guy. So I mean, it's not like he's intimidating. Like he'd just crush you with an answer.
He's a big teddy bear.
He is. Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know why they didn't either. I was glad. I feel bad for him. He wasn't a part of that, and he's not a part of it. And I was kind of glad they didn't put him on the spot personally, just because, Lord, he did not know what he was signing up for.
Hey Ryan, let me ask you a question. If you go to a winning program and you didn't have anything to do with it, you're still part of the winning program, right? If that makes any sense.
Well, see, the way I believe it is, I'll believe you're a good coach when you start winning games with your recruits.
Right, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like, in baseball, if you get called up to the majors and you're on the roster for a week, you still get a ring if they win the World Series? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. No.
All right.
No, I think he did fine. He addressed it, not directly, but indirectly, that they're doing all the right things on the field and off the field. And he talked about that. He just didn't come out and say the harsh words that they're being.
Well, no, he went one step further. He said that they're running the finest program in the nation off the field.
Yeah. Which they might be. You never know. I mean,
listen,
they might
I'm all about being fair. I'm just teasing, but he deserves a chance. But hey.
Yeah.
If you stick your hand in poop and pull it out, it still smells like poop. I'm just going to say that. But it is what it is. He accepted the program. I hope he can change it because it is better for the Big 12. It is better for the rivalry is. In all fairness and being serious, I'd love for every team to step up this year. It makes the Big 12 that much stronger. The high-powered offenses do come from the Big 12, and in the country, out of all the districts that you see out there. So it's good for business if Baylor's up to par and back to them old selves. But hey, I could really care less about them personally. But if I'm being politically right, I want Baylor to come up and start winning. And hopefully when we battle them, they're undefeated. We're undefeated, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Did we have any of our assistant coaches there, or was it just Gary himself?
No, just head coaches and players.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 80s.
Well, yeah, in AD. We ran into Chris Del Conte today, so that was yeah, that was another thing that Herman did. He must have mentioned Del Conte. I think I had to count. It was like 4 or 5 times in his little State of the Union address that he gave. But you know what? Everybody in that room absolutely respects him, and we all know why. But Donati's got us going in the right direction too. So, but yeah, it was interesting to see. It was a lot of fanfare. Bowlesby had a couple things to say about the Baylor situation as far as the report that came out that Baylor was worried that they were going to lose their membership in the Big 12 and that they're not doing an investigation, them being the Big 12. They're not doing an investigation of Baylor, but they're currently doing a verification process. I don't know if that's just him being – I think that's just political speak of just parsing words. It's not as harsh as an investigation, but at the same time, they're kind of keeping all their options open depending on what may come out or what has yet to come out. So, I mean, Matt Rule and the Bears are not out of the woods yet. So
I don't know that there's any – I heard people talk about kicking Baylor out, but I don't know if the league has any mechanism in place to do such a thing. And I don't know.
That's a good question.
I'm
not sure.
And actually, I think in my memory, and as you know, it goes back a long, long way, I think there's only been one team in NCAA in the past 20 or 30 years that's being kicked out of their league, and that was Temple, Matt Rule's old school, who I think was removed from the Big East for a brief moment because of their overall lack of success in football at the time. And I may have that wrong, but I think the Big East did kick them out, but I don't know that the Big 12 has got any kind of mechanism or provision for removing a school. They might, but I certainly haven't read anything about it or seen anything about it on the news or anything that I've looked at. So I think it'd be difficult to do. It certainly.
Yeah, no, you're right about Temple. By the way, they get voted out by of the Big East back in 2001, effective June 30th, 2002.
There you go.
Wow. Golly.
Yeah, and I think does it say why? I think it was overall lack of success in football, and basically they just didn't have any support.
In the article, there's a lot of Google searches about how Temple was wrongfully accused and wrongfully kicked out and blah 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 blah. But you're right.
real quick before we segue onto maybe to something else, when you walked into the media days, I really like, the Big 12 has just gotten the brunt of everything the last several years because we don't have divisions. We play everybody, and I don't know. Well, we didn't have a conference championship game. Well, it's because we play everybody. We don't need one, And now we have a conference championship game. So literally, the team who loses, who is the true second place team, can kind of get screwed. And then if the first place team, who's undefeated, maybe, and then they lose, that can knock them out of the playoffs. There's just all these ways of looking at it. So I like how they're finally owning the conference, and this was a big deal. They and so I'm going to read y'all some of the so whenever you're having to stick up for the Big 12, you can use these little snippets. It said the hardest path to the college football playoffs, every game matters. Gotta look at all the others. Shoot, I have those two. With some others. No divisions, only FBS conference with a round robin schedule, guaranteed first versus number 2 in the conference championship. Because we all know in all the other conferences, it's not 1 versus 2. It's 1 versus whatever the other side was, which could be 5 or 6, depending on how talented that the other division is. So I like that they talked about that. Not that it's going to change anything, but I think we have a tough road. And they also said, how many we have the hardest non-conference schedule this year with all the P5 schools that we play. So
that's what I was going to bring up. Every coach made a point of explaining how many Power 5 schools they play in their schedule this year.
Right.
And I can't remember, was it West Virginia or Oklahoma who had 11 Power 5 schools that they play against? I think it was West Virginia. And they're playing 11 Power 5 schools, which means they're only playing one quote unquote cupcake, which is not really a cupcake. And Dana was making a point. It's like, I wish everybody would do this.
Yeah, it was.
Not all conferences do that. And he goes, there is one conference, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that gets off playing cupcakes in the middle of the season. And he wishes that everybody else had the same kind of commitment to playing these other teams.
Well,
and
the league could hand down a rule saying you've got to have a scheduling requirement. The league could change that if they wanted to.
They could, but with a lot of these leagues, they don't want to do it because they know that the division setup that they've got and the multiple three cupcakes that they have on their particular schedule sets them up very well for having maximum number of teams that are bowl eligible at the end of the season, which means more money.
But I just remember when we went to Conference USA and Mike Slive was the commissioner before he went to the SEC, but he set a scheduling requirement. He said the only way we're going to gain credibility in our league is we play and eventually beat some of these bigger schools.
He wasn't wrong.
He wasn't absolutely correct. And I think if we're going to gain more respect as a league, we're going to have a scheduling requirement and knock out some of these FCS schools that we're loading or we tend to play. And Baylor might have to give up on, Incarnate Word and Liberty University. But
I don't know. I think Matt Rule needs all the help he can get right now.
Yeah, we need to build their confidence.
But it bit them in the butt last year because both schools beat them.
Yeah, that's true. There's always next year.
There's always next year. That's right.
Those were pretty bad. I think what was his quote? It was like it wasn't fun. It was pretty bad last year.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He wasn't trying to. What do they say? What's the saying where you paint a pig pretty or put lipstick on a pig? I always mess those up.
Yeah, no, he tried. He tried his best, but there was no doubt about it. That was
he did have him playing better at the end of the year, but still, it was that how embarrassing is that to get University of Texas San Antonio and then Liberty University beat you back to back. I mean, that's absolutely amazing.
It's not good for your program.
No, not good at all. And it was kind of apparent throughout the entire day. I mean, they had banners hung from the rafters in the Star. And I don't know if you guys, Ryan, Shannon, while you guys were there, I don't know if you took a real hard look at what the banners were. A lot of them were like of some of the better moments of the various teams throughout the last year or two. Yeah. And, a lot of them were like hoisting up, the trophies for the bowls they won. They had all the trophies there. The Alamo Bowl trophy was there. TCU won. They even had the college football, the
national trophy,
stupid national trophy looking thing. I hate the way that thing looks, but they had that there just as representative. But they had all the trophies there and all the banners from they had one for each school representing some of the major things that happened last year. And like I said, a lot of them were just holding up trophies and a lot of really big plays. The Baylor one was of the Baylor line.
Oh God, it was so embarrassing. They
those guys
one guy in gold, like
yes, with the big old goofy grins on their faces. They're running on the field. That was their photo. It was
you know what? At least it wasn't the picture of them all falling down.
No, that's true, right? Yeah, well, they all.
God. Oh God.
Oh my gosh! Hey, are we going to talk about some of the rule changes in the cameras?
Yes, thank you.
Gosh,
yes,
body cameras.
Yeah, there was so yesterday morning, Monday morning, Commissioner Bowlesby kind of gave the opening kind of address to the media. This morning it was the new coordinator for officials, and Greg, and I apologize, I forgot the guy's last name. I'll have to look it up. But he came out and he was giving us information about all the major rule changes that were going to be taking place over the course of this year. Sorry, it's Greg Burks, coordinated officials. And by the way, Greg Burks actually is coming from the Mountain West Conference. So for those of you who have fond memories of officiating in the Mountain West Conference, you know what to expect in the coming season.
Start practicing my boo now.
Yeah, pretty much. If any of you read ZebraFrog's post about the rule changes, and ZebraFrog is one of our oldest members, not in age, but just in length of time. But
and
he's an actual referee, so he knows what he's talking about. He actually posted a lot of this information as well, but it bears kind of going through because there were some interesting changes. The thing that he really wanted to focus on to start off with was the uniform change, and that they're cracking down on uniforms this season by officials. And for those of you who are thinking, great, we're not going to have 20 different variations and people are going to wear off colors and goofy uniforms, that's not what he's talking about. What he's talking about specifically is you're not going to allow players anymore to go on the field without their kneecaps covered. So now everybody has to have kneecaps covered with proper protection. If an official catches you without proper protection, and it has to be the full knee, not half knee, if you don't have full knee protection, they'll actually send you out of play until you do get protection. Now, the coach can call timeout to get you back in, but if you don't have that knee protection, you're going to be sitting to play. Wow. And that was interesting. Also, the uniforms have to be pulled down to the pants or tucked in. So you can't have that Baylor midriff thing going where they've got bellies out with the little belly button ring showing, and they can't have that. So
I thought that was already implemented after Ezekiel Elliott did all that.
Yeah, I will. Like he was saying, the NFL is such a different game. But
it's an NFL rule. I get that.
Yeah, he said it was because they need to be able to see the numbers, because when the uniform is pulled up, the numbers get scrunched and you can't see the full number. It's a good excuse, but yeah, I mean, it's really they're trying to police that sort of look on the field. Oddly enough, they didn't address Turpin's watch. So as far as we know, that's still allowed.
Y'all, I got to interject here. It's so funny. Jalen Austin, oh, gosh, another great guy. Did not know him at all. He's very soft-spoken, but just extremely smart. We were talking about the jewelry in his individual press conference, and Mike said something like, well, does Turpin wear it he wears it during practice, his watch, doesn't he? And Jalen was like, y'all notice that too? Y'all know that? I mean, he was so surprised that we actually knew that he wore his gold watch during practice. So
kind of sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, he puts it down. He goes, Turpin time. So it was funny. So we'll see if he does it again. I just, Sean, you and I were talking about this. I just think, I don't care what they wear, but to me, just coming from, I guess, the 90s, you weren't allowed to even wear, you could wear stud earrings as an athlete, but that was really it. No necklaces, no nothing, no rings.
No rings, nothing.
Yeah, it's just dangerous. So, but,
yeah. Well, I think it's crazy as hell. I'm going to be flat out. It's crazy. I mean, the only thing that I say at the next level, what they have money, once it break or whatever happens, they can afford to buy one the next day. So I'm thinking, if it's real, in college level, why would you want to get out there and break it or, whatever the case? But it's stupid. I mean, I guess I just don't know the point. I'm sorry. Why would you wear, it's like wearing a wedding ring out there. I mean, come on, you jam a finger, that thing is they're going to cut your finger off instantly. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, only time you need to be worried about that damn clock saying 000 in the scoreboard. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, there are some. I would be stunned I guess there's some players that wear a ring out there, but there are some serious finger injuries you can get. I think one of them is called a ring avulsion. Look it up on Google. Google it.
No, don't look it up on Google. You don't want to see the pictures.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly, but you run the risk of having that if you get a hook caught on something and somebody's running and you get, there's any number of ways it can happen, but it's a pretty serious injury to your finger.
Well, that's why they have those silicone. I have one when I'm out here in the shop and I'm doing any work on any of these machines, I'm wearing a silicone ring because if I get, I'm not wearing one now, but if I get my wedding ring caught on one of these things, the wood lathe, God forbid the table saw or something, and not only am I worried about them and cut off my finger, but it'll mess my finger up, or like Shannon will say, rip it right off. And that's not good.
I don't know if you guys remember, but our senior year, LT bought a damn grill or whatever, and he lost it on the football field, and it was all gold. So we're looking as we're out there. We're like, where did you drop it? Where do you think you dropped it? I guess Malpi. I don't know what happened. But after the game, we're supposed to be doing meeting and everything. We're all out there looking for the dang on gold mouthpiece or whatever. And we never found it. And we were like, you know what? The custodians are going to get it, or whoever does the field, and they're going to find out it's yours, and that thing's going to be worth a lot of money to them. So we never found the freaking gold grill. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was crazy.
I remember him wearing that. I didn't understand that either, but yeah, that's funny.
I can just see you guys there locking arms, going end zone to end zone, doing like a search pattern.
We look retarded.
You should have got a metal detector and gone over the whole field.
We look like a bunch of birds, looking for it looked crazy. I don't know, it was crazy.
He didn't wear that during the game, did he?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
He had it on during the game, and I don't know if he took his mouthpiece out or what happened. He lost it, and then he lost it on the field. And so after the game, we're all looking, while we're out there playing during the times we were, kind of huddled up, whatever. We'd look around. Then after the game, we're all out there just looking. The whole field. Everybody. It's like, what are we doing?
That's hilarious. I love that story.
Well, Shannon, I got a question for you about one of these rule changes that I thought was kind of interesting because the coordinator was talking a lot about, the coordinator officials was talking a whole lot about how they implement a rule and then the coaches and the players find a way around the rule or find a way to kind of skirt it, and then they have to reevaluate it and change the rule again. One of the rules that's going on right now is to try to save on kickoffs, basically. And that was any fair catch within the 25, the ball is immediately going to be placed at the 25. So if you fair catch it at the 5, the ball is going to come out to the 25 regardless. So essentially the end zone basically is now extended out to the 25 when it comes to a fair catch. Yeah. So my question to you is, Shannon, if I were a player or a coach, wouldn't you then be practicing squib kicks, just line drives to try to get the ball down there so they can't fair catch it, and B, you're trying to use the kicker to kick the ball down there inside of the 10 or the 5, and just tell your guys to go all out to try to get there.
You're going to see strategy behind it now. Whether it's for safety reasons or whatever the rule change is all about. And I did hear mention, maybe Patterson, somebody mentioned that, and I was thinking about that. So to your point, you just did it. You just you strategize. It's like we're going to have to squib it. Hopefully we bounce it off somebody. Do something fancy, because again, you look for an opportunity, especially depending on what the game is like. That's an opportunity for a turnover. That is a possession. That's it is a play, and that's the only thing about it. Even at the next level, when you move the yard line, or you move and I get for the concussion protocol and things they're trying to do, but you really take away a possession that somebody may need. You know what I mean? And so I think you'll just see a lot more strategy behind it. You know, I want to, you know, as we go on, we start the year with new rule changes. You look to see how that's going to look or what people are going to do, and so it's going to be interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the kicker position has now become a lot more valuable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're going to have a lot of teams that if you can't quite get it to the end zone now, and you're going to have a lot of teams that are just going to sit there and try to fair catch it within the 5 if they don't need to.
And you got the ball at the 25.
Yeah,
right.
You get the ball at 25.
So it's just like, I mean,
I don't like that.
That's I mean, think about that, man. It's still, I mean, 5 yards, 5 yards. Now you're cutting the distance off between a drive. Now it's like, okay, we need to go, you know, freaking 85, whatever it is, yards. Now it's like at some point it's going to be 50. I mean, come on. And think about this and I mentioned it earlier, the Big 12 being the most, you know, scoring the most points in the league, you know, throughout the SEC and all the other districts. Think about that when you're moving the ball up 5 yards with all the high power offenses that we have in the Big 12. I mean, the
5 yards is a lot.
Listen, some people might say, well, 5 yards, no, 5 yards is a lot when you already have difficult from a defensive standpoint stopping offenses. You know, if you want to see less scoring, maybe you would back them up, right? But it's like one of those situations where if, you know, these you know, they already said there's no Big 12, there's no defense in the Big 12 because of the offenses. Well, there is. It's just the offenses are that good. They're putting up points. And, you know, defense, we have a solid. Even when we weren't solid, we were solid. We just expect them to be what we've seen in the past. But if you think about that, that's that definitely is an advantage for the offense to score more points, even in the Big 12 when we're already putting up 40 to 60 points week in, week out.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how teams handle the kickoffs. And I know a couple of the teams were already asked. Some of the head coaches were already asked about that particular rule, and they were already kind of hinting towards the fact that they're already strategizing as far as how strategizing. You know, how they're going to play that out. So and it is, like you said, it's a possession play, and that was one of the points somebody had asked the coordinator officials was like, hey, you know, what about just getting rid of it altogether? I mean, it seems like you're already moving that direction. He explained, you know, you can't really do that. It's not, you know, those are possession plays, and those are things that can turn a game. So you need to have those in there, but they need to make them safer. And
so let me ask you this: would it benefit, to your point? Would it benefit the game just to have it on the 20 versus the 25? You know what I mean? Like, take the rule out and just start them on the 20, which, you know, obviously it's a possession. You can't do that, but
no. Because you have to allow for onside. I mean, you can't get rid of the kickoff. But at the same time, what I would have liked to have seen is the rule be if it's a true touchback, it's in the end zone, you bring it out to the 25. If it's within the, you know, from the 1 yard line to the 25 and you fair catch it, you know, put them at like the 15 or something, you know, make some sort of a, you can fair catch it and not
reward the kicker for having a good kick, you know?
Right. Well, yeah. One way or the other. I don't know. Or maybe like, you know, if it's inside the 25, go to the 25. If it's in the end zone, put him at the 15, or I don't know, something.
Right. But Sean, to your point, if you know, saying there's a lot more concussions on onside kicks than there are deep kicks. And my point being is, it seems like at some point they're trying to do away with that in the NFL level, right? Because it's all about the concussion protocol. Well, I got the hardest I've ever been hit in my life is on onside kick against Vanderbilt, because it's such a short distance and they kick your way, and you're outmatched if you're on the front line. You got 4 or 5 guys coming full speed within 10 yards, and the ball's coming at the same time. You have really no time, some of the guys, to protect themselves. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there because it seems at the next level they're trying to do away with that possession anyway. But even with the onside kick, there's a lot more concussions in that play than there is with a deep ball.
Now, speaking of concussions, the league just announced that they're switching to a new helmet manufacturer.
Good transition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome. I finally got something right.
No, I was just about to bring it up.
Well, I said Sean's getting ready to mention that, so I better jump in there and beat him to it. But no,
I've taught you well, Padawan.
But the new helmets, did you have a chance to hold them? And you said they're a lot heavier than the old helmet.
Yeah. So Yeah, so the new helmets are made by Vices, which is actually spelled Vicis. Looks like Vicus, but it's Vices, and it's this new. I don't know the best way to kind of explain it. Mike mentioned it looks a lot like a fighter pilot's helmet, and I totally get that, and it's almost just as heavy. The helmet itself has a kind of a honeycomb protective interior inside of it. It's from a technical standpoint, it's a great looking helmet, but it's easily twice as heavy as the current helmet that the Frogs use. And they had all these helmets out. And so they had the current Frog helmet there, as well as all the other, the Rydell helmets, the shoot helmets, the whole everything. And then they had this Vices helmet out, and I was able to pick them all up and kind of compare the weight. And Bowlesby mentioned yesterday in his statement that, yeah, they're a little bit heavier, but guys will get used to it. I don't know, Shannon.
No, I'm sitting here listening to you, brother. Heavy is heavy.
Yeah.
Weight is weight. I don't care what it's designed to do. If you're running, perhaps on kickoff, down the field with a heavier helmet, that means it's going to be heavy. That means it's going to weigh more, which means it's going to knock the hell out of you going full speed because it's heavier versus lighter, if that makes any sense. So I hadn't felt, I understand, but heavy, again, when you keep saying heavy, I'm thinking, well, it's supposed to be a better helmet, but it's heavier. That doesn't make sense to me. And again, you take a 5-pound weight, drop it on your foot, you take a 10-pound, it's going to hurt, but I mean, that 10 pounds is going to probably crush your foot. So I don't know about that. That's just, I'd have to see it.
Let's be honest. It's not 10 pounds. It's not that heavy, but it is easily twice as heavy as the current helmet.
So what did they say that not every school is going to be wearing, and they have some test pilots this next season?
I don't know if it was every school. It's not everybody on the team.
That's right. They have like 10.
All the teams will have them. Now, when these things first came out, they're $1,500 a helmet.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine when you've got, 80 something players on your team and you're outfitting them with $1,500 helmets. Now, apparently after this deal went through, the price magically went down to like $960, but it's still almost $1,000 a hat. And so what they're doing is that they are giving them to specific players. And I imagine I don't remember them saying specific positions, but I imagine it's the ones that are more prone to having concussions. So I don't think, linemen are going to go out there and get these, but I think we're going to probably quarterback, linebacker, running back, maybe wide receiver. I don't know, but those are the guys that I would imagine are going to be the ones wearing the helmets first.
Are they like the current helmets in that they have an inflatable bladder inside of it for protection, or is it just that honeycomb effect?
No, it's kind of like this honeycomb effect, and the pictures are up on KillerFrogs. If you go to the second day. If you go to KillerFrogs.com and you go to the second day coverage, it's up at the top of the page. I posted pictures of it, and it's intriguing. I mean, like I said, from a technical point of view, they look fantastic. I love the technology behind it, but I'm with you, Shannon, man. Weight is weight.
Weight is weight, brother. I'm just, it's gonna be interesting. I'd like to see it myself, but I mean, again, lighter. The guys want to be lighter. They want lighter pads. They want to run faster. That's just what it is. They don't want more weight. Yeah. And so the game is getting lighter. It's getting faster. That's why even in the NFL, you see guys with shoulder pads. They don't look like they have shoulder pads on. Nobody wants to wear the knee pads, even at a big collision sport. And some of it's to look a certain way, but to be honest with you, it's to be faster. I always say, man, I wish we had all the bulky stuff back in my day. And we look at it today, it's like, man, I wish we could have had that stuff that weren't today, because it would make us that much faster. And we were one of the fastest, I think, our senior year, the fastest defense in the country. But with the pads they're wearing today, we're like, man, we'd be really fast because it's like it's light. So with them going to a heavier helmet, that's just kind of, I don't know. I don't know if the guys are going to like it. I don't like a heavy helmet.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. If you hit somebody with that heavier helmet, it's like having a cannonball. Yeah. Because these guys turn themselves into a projectile at the times. Yeah. And I can understand how concussions happen. And I know they work on technique of tackling with you, Shannon, when you played, but I always admire the rugby guys because they play without any kind of head protection.
That's a different kind of crazy.
They have violent collisions, but they work hard on technique to avoid, don't lead with your head, lead with your shoulders and and try and, tackle them high. And it's just, don't turn your body into a human missile.
Sure.
And, it's interesting, different philosophies, but it works very well. You have very few concussions in rugby.
Well, speaking of turning your body into a projectile, there is a change also in the leaping rule now. Before, the leaping rule had to deal with, extra points, field goals, things like that, where a lineman or a linebacker was trying to run up and jump over the line to actually block it or try to get some sort of a vantage moving forward to try to get an angle to block the kick. Sure. And now what has to happen is that you can initiate a run up to the line and jump at any point from the backfield. But the problem is that you have to jump completely vertical. The minute your momentum is carrying you into the space above an offensive lineman, that is an illegal play now. Yeah. And the only thing that will negate that is if that offensive player, after you have jumped, moves then towards you. So if you're the leaping player and you jump up slightly vertically, but maybe a little bit more forward momentum, but not enough to carry yourself into their airspace, so to speak. But the offensive player then moves towards you to block. That negates any sort of illegality. But that's going to be an interesting thing to see, because I know that's been a really popular play in the last couple of seasons.
And the officials are wearing body cams, right? This next year?
Yeah, so that's the other thing. Fans of the body cam, the officials now actually have body cams. But it's not body cams, it's hat cams.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to see a little bit more as far as what are the officials focused on, or what's their field of vision when they make certain calls. And so they're going to be wearing these particular cameras attached to their headgear. And I think I read this right, the media could actually petition the league to get a copy of that video if they wanted to be able to use it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So, yeah. And that was a big point too that they made about the officials, is that they're trying to teach these officials to widen their gaze a little bit more, to not focus in on just a defensive player or just an offensive player during a play, but to kind of take the whole play into consideration. And there's a lot of rule changes that are going to go into that. One of which was the new stoppage of play and the 10-second runoff when you're inside of a minute within the second quarter or the fourth quarter. So you have about a minute left to play in the game. If a offensive player, and this only deals with review. So if an offensive player, let's just say quarterback has the ball, he's rolling out. As he's being tackled, he gets rid of the ball, and it's a completed pass, and the guy gets out of bounds and the clock stops. On review, what they find out is before the quarterback released the ball, his knee was down. So he would have been down by contact, clock would have been running. Well, because it was a review play, they got it right, but because it was a review play has been stopped, clock is stopped. So what they'll do at that point in that particular situation is that they will then initiate a 10-second runoff for the offense. So if they get the call right, the clock will be stopped, but there'll be a 10-second runoff. Now, he didn't mention whether or not a timeout can negate the runoff, but I imagine that's usually how runoff rules.
Right.
So,
wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think Vladimir Putin's behind that one.
Yeah. Well, we'll look for that, because that's going to rear its ugly head at some point in time. It's going to be something within less than 10 seconds left to play, and something like that's going to happen. And the runoff is either going to just kill the game or, it's going to be interesting.
And that leaping rule, I see nothing but arguments in the future about that thing.
Well, you can't. The thing about it is, instantly my mind goes to the front lines on one leap. Linebackers can't listen. How are you supposed to run from 5 yards, get a running start at 5 yards, and leap straight up? It's not going to happen. It can't happen. So it's that rule is that you can't do it from a deep position linebacker or whatever else. You have to do it as your defensive lineman. They just got to go straight up, because I mean, there's no way. I don't know. That's I don't know about that. With everything you just said, the offensive line's got to, be, launch forward with you and all. It's just, I'm thinking, how are they going to see that fast? How do you see all that in one play that fast? I don't know. I just think it takes out the linebacker play coming from the side, or whatever the case, to try to block a kick or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And the last rule we want to talk about tonight, and I think this will close out tonight's podcast, and one that I had a little bit of a head scratcher, but one that will make Wes slightly happy.
Okay.
And by the way, Wes, you will be happy to know 0.2 stoppages per game in the Big 12 last year for reviews.
What?
Oh, good.
Yes, only 2.2. But anyway, because Wes always loves the instant replay. But this rule is interesting. They will now actually set a play clock after touchdowns and after the extra point. So you score a touchdown, 40 seconds on the clock to get the extra point off.
Okay.
So it's no longer a stoppage in play for everyone to celebrate, do their thing, cannon going off, band going crazy, everyone in the stadium's going nuts. And then when everyone kind of calms down, then you kick the extra point or do the 2-point try. No, right after you score that touchdown, you got 40 seconds to get your team out there, kick the extra point.
Wow.
Now, guys, think about that and think about Coach Patterson like right now. You could just see our guys jumping up, celebrating, and I can see him beelining towards them. Get your ass off the field. We got to kick his extra point. He's not going to stand for that. So I guess that's one of those discipline rules. You're going to have to be disciplined because I'm telling you, by the time you score and that thing starts, the cannon's going off, everybody's celebrating. You kind of lose focus of that clock. I mean, I can see it happening right now. And by the time you line up and get things going, you may have about 15 seconds on the clock to get that ball off. So that's going to be interesting.
So what happens if the clock times out? Or is it a penalty and you move back, or do you just
it's a penalty? Delay a game at that point.
Delay a game.
Okay.
It's a delay a game, so it moves you back, which, for some of these kickers isn't going to be a big deal. But, they say they're doing this to kind of speed up the game.
Sure.
And again, I mean, how much are you going to really save in the overall scheme of things when you're dealing with the game, especially given how many media timeouts we've got to deal with? But you're honestly, I gotta think that the reason why they're doing that after touchdowns has got to be because of celebrations, trying to crack down on all these crazy celebrations. But the other side of this rule, though, is that after the extra point is kicked, and I'll come back to one other rule about the extra point in just a minute. After the extra point is kicked or the 2-point try is done, they put another 40 seconds on, and that's how long you've got to clear the field, get the kick and the return team out there to kick the ball for the next possession. So you're going to have a play clock running after the score, after the try, to kick the next rate. Now, here's a question I wanted to ask him, and I didn't get a chance to ask him, but how does that play in with media timeouts? Because we all know after a score is the natural time where it's, time to go to, commercial break.
Yeah.
And how is that going to affect teams? Because you're going to have some teams where after they score, the media is going to take a timeout. And you're going to have some teams after they score. Now you've got 40 seconds on the clock to go out there and actually kick another run. So you're going to have some times where one team is in an advantage as another because some are going to have timeouts that others do not get. Right. And so I don't know how they're going to square that. It's going to be interesting to see.
I know
they're not going to mess with the money. You can bet on that.
Oh, no, not at
all. You can bet that.
Conveniently, certain teams will always get screwed on that one.
Yeah, well, see, now that's an interesting question. I would be interested to see during Big 12. I would be interested to see how many times when a Power 5 conference plays a non-Power 5 conference, and I'm going to put my old, little sisters of the poor hat on. How many times is a big Power 5 team going to get that media timeout after their score versus how many times a non-Power 5 team is going to have to immediately run out there and kick a ball right after they score? I'm be interesting to see the breakdown on that one.
So definitely we're going to see that quite a few times.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it either. It's
celebrating. Gosh.
Yeah. Well, I like the celebration too. So
is that rule set in place, or are they going to do an experiment with it for the?
As far as I know, that is set in place. That's going to happen starting this season.
Well, I don't see how it's going to speed up the game. Some of that stuff, but
it will create confusion.
Yeah, they keep tinkering with some of the, like in baseball a few years ago, they had the pitch clock. I remember that they tried it for experiment early in the college season, and you had the pitcher had X number of seconds to come into the set position, and then he had to deliver the ball. And and then if it was he didn't do it by the time, there was a blinking light out in the outfield. Didn't do the time within the time limit. I think it was counted as a ball. Well,
yeah, they brought that back this year. Similar.
They did?
Yeah. I think it's 15 seconds or something. I can't remember exactly, but they had a countdown clock again.
Well, they do it. Well, I'll go to the minor league games here in Round Rock, and they have that pitch clock, and I think it's at 30 seconds.
Is it?
But it doesn't speed up a darn thing. And that whole idea of that was to speed up the game. But it was It's ridiculous. It doesn't work, and I don't know why they keep it going.
That's silly. But yeah, they keep messing with it. And here's another thing that they messed with. So I said I'd come back to this on the try after a touchdown. The offense is no longer obligated to actually attempt the try. So after a touchdown, you're no longer obligated as the offense to kick an extra point. So you can decide, I'm not going to do it. Now, how is this going to affect things? Well, the way the rules were written before, according to them, is that you've all seen this happen, right? Offense is down 5 points going into the last final seconds. They end up scoring a touchdown with no time left. They won the game. Everyone knows they won the game. But after everyone is celebrated, the band is on the field, the fans are charging the field. They have to clear everybody off so that the offense can kick the stupid extra point. Well, that was actually do that. Official going over there going, well, no, I'm going to make you kick an extra point because that's just the way apparently it was a rule. So they've now set it up where you don't have to actually do the extra point if you don't want to. Now, there was no question posed to Coach Bro as to whether or not he was going to take advantage of that, given their kicking woes last season. But I think it might benefit Tech to kind of, score touchdowns, be good about themselves, and not try the extra point.
I can't see Gary Patterson passing up on that because, he likes to win by 1 point, and there goes your 1 point. Right, your 1 point.
Yeah. I don't see TC unless it's at the end of the game and like say we just won. Yeah. I don't foresee that happening with TCU.
Yeah. I wonder how much will that affect some of the kicker stats and an opportunity to get into the next level because you start thinking about all that. It's like I don't know if I like that.
I like it for the end of the game, but that's it.
Think about it. If you're now with sports gambling, if you need that 1 point, if you needed that 1 point to cover,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Not good.
Gambling was an interesting topic that a couple of reporters just wanted to absolutely just.
I didn't think about that.
On it. But that was crazy. I think Dana had the best response to the gambling question that was constantly posed, and that was because of West Virginia and situation in West Virginia, and he basically told the reporter, he was like, "Look, our guys are probably the most recognizable people in all of West Virginia." And I was thinking to myself, given West Virginia, that's probably true. And he was saying, if our guys are dumb enough to go out and do that, they're probably dumb enough to do other things too. So that's probably the least of my worries is what he was saying. So yeah, it's
recognizable because they all have teeth, or what's the question?
Wes going for that low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If it's out there, I'm going to grab it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us tonight. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us tonight. I know it was a little bit of a long one, but we had a really good time at the Big 12 Media Days. If you missed any of the coverage, go to KillerFrogs.com. You'll find 2 posts, day 1 and day 2. TCU kicks off day 1. You'll definitely want to listen to Bill Snyder just raking one of the reporters over the coals about stadium renovations. That was kind of interesting. That was in day 2. Unfortunately, there was just too much to kind of go over in this particular podcast, but go on there. I posted all the audio from each of the coaches' press conferences. You can find them there, along with a lot of good photos from the day. And you can even see Ty Summers doing the floss. And if you saw Sean Robinson trying to do the floss, you haven't seen anything yet. So I was curious. But anyway, I want to thank everybody out there who's been listening to us. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, pretty much everywhere podcasts are found. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook, as well as on YouTube. And of course, you can go to KillerFrogs.com to catch all of your frog news and sign up and discuss TCU athletics with the rest of us knuckleheads. Also, make sure to go over to the Frogs Wire to find the latest in TCU news. And with that, we've come to the end of the podcast. It's time where we get all the frogs up and get to say,
Go Frog.
Go Frog.
Is this Knuckles Up?
Knuckles up.
Knuckles up this year. That's the slogan. When I saw that on the media guide, I was like, please no. Is that really it? Knuckles up?
How much did they pay for that one? That's incredible.
I think the players came up with it. I think the players like it. That has to be it.
Well, if the players liked it, I love it. I think
I'm okay with it. I hope that's the reason. And we just have to live with it for 6 months, and then we're on to something else.
Yeah, that's how Yeah.
Hey, I'm from the old school. We used to knuckle up all the time, so I love it.
Yeah. It's a different kind of knuckle there, Shannon.
That's the problem with these little jokers nowadays. They don't want to knuckle up.
I got your knuckles right here, buddy.
I like it. Knuckle or the frog of the noogie. I don't know which one it is, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Y'all have a good night.